Exclusive coming up. India Today, remember, the only channel that has continuously reported what's been happening on the China border without fear or favor. And tonight, we bring you another national exclusive, which takes things very much to the next level. Let's get to the headlines first. Spine-chilling murder in Mumbai's Mira Road. 56-year-old man kills his 32-year-old partner, chops up her body with a tree cutter and boils her body parts. Nabbed by the police. Sources say he was inspired by the Aftab Shraddha case. Shocking Indira Gandhi assassination tableau in Canada. Congress condemns the enactment. External Affairs Minister slams Canada for giving space to extremists and separatists. 700 Indian students face deportation threat in Canada. Jaishankar steps in, calls action unfair. Canadian government promises action. Ghaziabad online conversion racket gets murkier. Minors shown Zakir Naik videos to radicalize. Sensational chats emerge first on India Today. New York City covered in an orange haze and smoke after uncontrolled wildfires burn away in Canada. Stay indoors advisory issued in New York City and elsewhere. It's been 3 years since the standoff between India and China began in Ladakh. Over these 3 years, we've reported every step. We've shown you what has happened, not just in Ladakh, but also in Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim and other sectors. But now we've got pictures of a Chinese provocation in a never-before area, a place where there has never been Chinese activity at this scale, a place where China has never before tried to provoke by changing facts on the ground. What you're about to see is a national exclusive report by India Today's Ankit Kumar, where he captures the first satellite imagery of a new township that China has built just kilometers, not from Ladakh, not from Arunachal Pradesh, but the Uttarakhand border. That's right, the central sector where China is looking to begin a new front to encircle India. This is an India Today national exclusive.
The world's biggest military standoff between the world's two biggest nations has remained active for 3 years now. With the Indian and Chinese armies deployed in massive numbers along this northern frontier in Ladakh, China's original aggression here hasn't been resolved in full. Then there's an uptick in Chinese provocations in Arunachal Pradesh's Tawang sector, including this undated incident where a Chinese unit was savagely beaten and pushed back across the LAC. Apart from these military aggressions in Ladakh and Arunachal, China has also been insidiously attempting to change the map by building model villages very close to the border in Sikkim and Ladakh. And now, satellite imagery obtained exclusively by India Today provides irrefutable evidence confirming recent claims of construction of military villages in the middle sector directly facing Uttarakhand. Notably, these are new locations that till now have not reported any India-China tensions. Analysis of commercial satellite pictures with us suggests these structures were built at a very rapid speed. In some cases, about 100 structures were raised over a period of just 1 month. Just 40 kilometers away from the Pulam Sumda in Uttarkashi, such structures started showing up between April and May 2022. Incidents of increased activity in another region towards the east near Barahoti have been reported in the past too. Barahoti has frequently reported face-offs between Chinese and Indian troops, but these new structures are in different areas. This would suggest the Chinese are enhancing their military presence across the sector. China has adopted the practice of constructing residential complexes in the forward areas separating India and China for some time now. Originally intended for civilian use, including sports and recreational amenities, most of these villages now remain empty. According to Indian military sources, the lack of migration by civilians from the mainland to these border villages suggests that they are primarily intended for China's military purposes. These residential facilities are capable of accommodating an increased deployment of troops with minimal notice. Indian Army sources confirmed to India today that they are aware of the new constructions and are keeping tabs. One thing is clear, China is opening another front. With Ankit Kumar in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me on India First to talk about and to decode these images and what they really mean, Ankit Kumar is India Today's resident expert on all things intelligence and especially satellite imagery. He's accessed these images. Nobody else has these images, and you're seeing them for the first time here on India Today. Also with us is Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. He needs no introduction, but he's been Chief of Staff in the Ladakh Corps. He was India's first officer in Siachen. He has operated at high altitudes and knows more than a thing or two about the India-China frontier. Thank you to the both of you for being with me here on India First, and to Ankit for bringing us this incredible story of a new Chinese front. But before I go to both the gentlemen on India First, I want to just go a little deeper to show you what this new township actually means. What does it mean? So China is building a residential township just kilometers from the Uttarakhand border. What does it really mean? Number one, remember, there are existing Chinese townships near Sikkim, Arunachal and Ladakh. This is a new Chinese township just about 40 kilometers from Uttarakhand. Now, Chinese townships are disguised as civilian settlements. They may look like villages from the air. But remember, there is a very negligible civilian population in this very remote part of the border areas of Tibet. Thus, this is clearly not for civilians, but for military accommodation. And these townships, like the one we've just revealed here on India Today, can accommodate huge troop deployments at very short notice. Remember, these are bitterly cold, high-altitude areas, and accommodation is an absolute necessary. They are strategically located to take advantage of the terrain in case hostilities break out. They are able to accommodate huge numbers of Chinese forces at short notice. Very importantly, final point, it forces India to commit corresponding military assets. That is why this is a problem. Ankit, first of all, amazing story. Once again, India Today putting the spotlight on how what's happening around us on the Chinese frontier is something that cannot be ignored clearly even for a moment. Ankit, break down for us this new township, this new activity that you have spotted from those satellites.
Well, Shiv, just to set the record straight, this township or these military villages, they are inside the China-controlled Tibet. So
Yes.
these are not in Indian territory.
Yes.
The reason why we are discussing it on prime time on India Today is because these villages mean bad news. Why I'm saying it? Because we have seen what has happened around Sikkim. We have seen what has happened around Tawang. Last year, in the month of December, what happened in Tawang, everybody knows. But what happened prior to that? Prior to that, just 6 months or 8 months before that, China started constructing a similar military village just opposite Tawang.
Yes.
And 6 months or 8 months after that, Tawang incident happened. Even around Doklam, we continue to see these kind of small military villages. They are mushrooming around Doklam. We are just waiting, perhaps, that situation to come to life. We don't know what will happen. Depends a lot on what Bhutan takes, because those villages are in Bhutan. Eastern Ladakh, we have already we have seen what has been happening since May 2020. This is for the first time that there is a visual confirmation of increased Chinese military activity. Remember, there have been bits and pieces of petrol party level incursions around Barahoti, but this is not Chamoli we are talking about. We are talking about Uttar Kashi, around it's the western part of the Uttarakhand state. That area has largely remained, kind of peaceful relatively if we compare with Eastern Ladakh, if we compare with Arunachal Pradesh. So the reason why we are discussing this development across the border is because these villages mean that in coming months and years maybe there might be a different situation along the border in that area around Uttarakhand border.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very interesting. And, you know, this is ominous. General Kulkarni, what are your first impressions of this? You know, it's not like India doesn't expect China to do this kind of thing. I think India is well past the, phase of being caught off guard. But this kind of provocation, it's fooling nobody. You know, nobody is going to sit here and think that this is a civilian village or a civilian settlement. It's obviously, meant for the People's Liberation Army. And this is obviously, a military tactic. What do you think, General?
Thank you very much, Shiv. And I must even thank Ankit to have brought to the notice of our countrymen as to exactly what Chinese are doing. China can't be trusted, especially after Galwan, the way they have galvanized their forces all along. There is no denying the fact, the kind of structures that have come up in Tibet, deep in about 100, 150 kilometers inside, with the kind of infrastructure that has come up, the railway lines that have come up, the airstrips that have come up, the heliports have come up, helipads have come up, lovely infrastructure, roads have come up, the kind of equipment, the military equipment meant for war, this thing have come up over there. Now we have what they call the Shao Kang. Shao Kang means the moderately prosperous villages, almost about 600 in number, which they are expected to come up all along. They're nothing but for dual purposes. They're eyes and ears of the Chinese. So the mobilization, which otherwise we would perceive that China may take a season or two because of the long distances, it can just be done in few hours now. As it is, they're about 100, 150 kilometers, and now you have these villages which are almost hugging the LAC.
Yes.
What 6 and 8 kilometers and 10 kilometers, and now what opposite Barahoti is about 35 kilometers is nothing. It's very, very close. And all these structures that have come up are so fast. And primarily because it's all nuts and bolts, everything and anything can be constructed. Once you flatten out the ground, all these structures come up. The Chinese have been doing that. We've been observing it. And I must tell you from my personal experience at Pengang Shore, at Figure 8, they would have a small hut over there with an old couple. And every time we would be approaching, the couple would have already informed that the Indians are coming.
Amazing.
And therefore we would find their vehicles come right opposite us. So this kind of a thing which the Chinese will do, it is definitely very worrisome, because 648 of these Shao Kangs which are going to be coming up, which are dual purposes, with all the facilities. They have communication towers, good roads, health centers, shopping complexes, what have you, and about more than 1,000 people can be accommodated in all these villages are concerned. And now, after this, you will find with the new border laws that have come up, slowly and steadily, few villages, maybe with the help of the border guards over there, you'll find that the Tibetans who are there across, the Chinese who are there across, will find the grazing grounds will now be slowly and steadily what we call salami slicing. They'll send the yaks pushing across. Then you'll find some disputes that will come up.
Very, very true. This is extremely worrisome. But I want to tell all of our viewers that this is not a one-off report by India Today. What you've seen today is only part one. Tomorrow we're going to follow it up and tell you how the Indian government has reacted and what action, if any, the Indian military is already taking. Knowing the Indian army, they already know about what's going on, and they would have taken some measures as well. But remember that all of these steps, provocations by China, they force India to commit resources towards what's happening there. This is an unprecedented situation. There may be no active fighting, no shooting war taking place, but as Ankit has reported for 3 years now, as General Kulkarni has told us for 3 years now, all of that can change in the blink of an eye. Thank you, Ankit. Thank you, General Kulkarni, for joining me on part one of this story. Tomorrow, I promise you, we'll bring you part two, and it will be something that takes this very hard-hitting national exclusive even further. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for joining me on this. Viewer, do you believe in UFOs? Do you believe that we here on Earth are not alone? Well, get this. Here's the very latest from that world. An American Air Force veteran, very respected in the intelligence community, has blown the whistle on the US government, becoming the latest in an entire community of former officials to do so. He now claims that the US government has been collecting intact extraterrestrial spacecraft or UFOs for decades as part of a retrieval program. It has allegedly been trying to keep a total secret. The big question, Here's a report.
Shimmering lights darting across the horizon. Otherworldly encounters captivate human minds. Their allure weaving its way into our collective consciousness, inspiring countless tales of wonder, fear and fascination. Reports of UFO sighting have also surged across the globe. Now, an American Air Force veteran has blown the whistle on the US government. 36-year-old David Grush has alleged it concealed a program with evidence of non-human origin crafts. In other words, the former intelligence official has claimed that the US government was in possession of intact and partially intact alien vehicles. Grush left the government in April after a 14-year career in US intelligence. In an interview, he claimed that in his role within America's defense establishment, he was trusted with some of the government's most intimate secrets. And those secrets, according to Grush, include spacecraft from quite a number of other species. So far, the US has only acknowledged UFO sightings.
There's a plane at the bottom that's moving across the screen, and now there are 3 out.
An official assessment released in 2021 confirmed that 143 reports of unidentified aerial phenomena since 2004 that could not be explained. But Grush has claimed that actual recoveries of unidentified spacecraft have been shielded from congressional oversight. The White House has dodged the question regarding the whistleblower's claims.
This whistleblower report alleging that the U.S. military has been retrieving craft of non-human origin for at least several decades. Are we alone? And if we were not, would you even tell us?
I would refer that question to the Department of Defense and let them answer that question for you. Go ahead.
In a statement, NASA insists that it has not found any credible evidence of extraterrestrial life and that there is no evidence that unidentified aerial phenomena which has been spotted are in fact extraterrestrial. Scientists exploring the solar system and beyond are helping us answer the fundamental question whether we are alone in the universe. Bureau Report, India Today.
Okay, now I hate to be a killjoy, but we have to stick to facts when we talk about things of which there is no proof. So it's important to note that UFO sightings are often attributed to natural or human-made phenomena such as misidentifications of aircraft, weather balloons, drones and other aerial objects. Keeping that in view, however, India hasn't been left behind in UFO sightings. The earliest one dates back, if you can imagine, to 1951, just 4 years after independence. But more recently, in Gujarat in 2004, multiple witnesses reported seeing a series of strange lights in the sky over the districts of Kutch and Ahmedabad. The lights were described as bright and moving in formations. The Indian Air Force launched an investigation but could not determine the cause of those sightings. 3 years later, in 2007, residents of Bankura district in Bengal reported seeing a mysterious object in the sky. They described a large glowing object with flashing lights that hovered in the air for several minutes before disappearing. The incident received huge media attention at that time. There were prime-time debates. Nobody finally knew what that was, though there was speculation that it was probably some kind of a weather phenomenon. In 2011, residents in several Delhi neighborhoods in Delhi, in the national capital, reported seeing a triangular-shaped object in the night sky. Some said it was Venus. Witnesses claimed that the object emitted bright lights and moved silently. The sightings lasted for a few minutes before the object disappeared. The incident was captured on video by some witnesses and circulated widely at that time on social media. In 2012, villagers in the Jajpur district of Odisha reported seeing a mysterious flying object. Witnesses described a silver disc-shaped object that hovered in the sky for some time before flying away at high speed. The incident drew a lot of attention from local authorities. Again, no conclusive explanation was found. 2013, multiple sightings of UFOs were reported in various locations in Rajasthan. Witnesses described seeing glowing spherical objects in the sky that moved in unusual patterns. Some people said it were drones. Some people said it was likely helicopters from a nearby airbase. The sightings caused a stir in the local media. Again, no definitive explanation was found. Well, the latest finger pointing as far as the existence of UFOs is concerned is the one that we just brought you from the United States. Well, for the first time ever, NASA's UFO panel held a public meeting. While this panel of scientists and experts have not ruled out aliens or military adversaries in space, the UFO panel does indeed emphasize that there is simply not enough evidence to prove extraterrestrial activity of any kind and any sightings to this day. They deny having in their possession any UFOs. Here's a report.
Destigmatizing UFO reporting.
The current data collection efforts regarding UAPs are unsystematic.
Astrobiologists, data scientists, planetary scientists, oceanographers, and policy experts. A team of 16 specialists assembled by NASA in October last year to work on UFOs, focusing its aperture on the unexplained mystery sightings.
Oh my God. We have an unidentified impact.
Drones are mobile. Keep your tech out of there.
A subject usually restricted to science fiction or to the secretive domain of intelligence gathering, now discussed candidly.
This is a newly released video. You'll notice there are two dots moving back and forth.
The NASA panel on UFOs, professionally called Unidentified Aerial Phenomena or UAPs, held its first public meeting last Wednesday.
To understand UAP better, targeted data collection, thorough data curation, and robust analyses are needed.
The NASA's UFO panel held this 4-hour session in Washington for final deliberations before the team publishes its report by late July. In a nutshell, it's not yet satisfied with available data on mystery objects spotted high up in the skies.
The current existing data and eyewitness reports alone are insufficient to provide conclusive evidence about the nature and origin of every UAP event. They're often uninformative due to lack of quality control and data curation.
The NASA team would not jump to conclusions. It made it clear unexplained sightings don't necessarily mean they can't be explained with the right tools and technology to identify them, and that there is no evidence yet they are associated with extraterrestrial life.
Only a very small percentage of UAP reports display signatures that could reasonably be described as anomalous.
Limited data privacy regulations pose significant hurdles in NASA's investigations of the unidentified objects.
The majority of unidentified objects reported to AARO and in our holdings demonstrate mundane characteristics of readily explainable sources.
Not much in hand to explain the unexplained, but still a milestone in breaking the taboos around UFOs. No debunking of the unidentified sightings anymore. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, throughout human history, the question of whether alien life exists beyond our planet has captivated the imaginations of scientists, philosophers, dreamers, citizens. Let's leave aside UFOs and UFO sightings for a moment, viewer. Because while definitive evidence of extraterrestrial life remains elusive, scientific discoveries over a century and statistical analysis strongly suggest that the existence of life beyond Earth is not only plausible, but statistically almost definite, almost 100%. Let me walk you through some compelling reasons why the existence of alien life forms is massively supported just by what we know so far. For starters, just the sheer vastness of the universe. The observable universe is an incomprehensibly vast expanse containing up to, listen carefully to this number, 200 billion galaxies with at least 200 billion trillion stars. That's right, 200 billion trillion stars. To think in this colossal expanse of space that we are the only life is not only philosophical hubris, but scientifically and statistically nearly impossible. Now, given the vast number of potentially habitable planets, statistically speaking, it becomes increasingly improbable that Earth is the only planet to harbor life. But then we have something called the Fermi paradox, which is the discrepancy between the apparently high likelihood of advanced extraterrestrial life versus the total lack so far of any conclusive evidence of it. But bear with me as we go a little deeper into the evidence we have, pointing to the tantalizing near certainty that we are not alone. Let's talk about exoplanet discoveries. Over the past few decades, advancements in observational techniques have allowed astronomers to detect and confirm the existence of thousands of exoplanets. NASA has a database of 5,338 confirmed exoplanets in 4,001 confirmed planetary systems and nearly 10,000, 9,432 exoplanet candidates waiting to be confirmed. Now, many of these exoplanets orbit within their star's habitable zone, where conditions could support the existence of liquid water, which, as you know, is a key ingredient for life as we know it. So immediately, this increasing number of exoplanet discoveries further strengthens the statistical case for alien life. Second, as our understanding of planetary formation improves, we have come to appreciate that the concept of a habitable zone, very much like our Earth, is not unique to our solar system. A habitable zone refers to the region around a star where conditions are conducive to the presence of liquid water. Now, the discovery of exoplanets within these habitable zones indicates that these regions are not rare occurrences, increasing, once again, the statistical likelihood of life-supporting environments beyond Earth. Third, the existence of what are called extremophiles on Earth. You probably know that life on Earth has shown remarkable adaptability, with organisms thriving in super extreme environments. Earth has organisms that can survive in extreme heat like volcanoes, extreme cold like the Arctic, acidity like the bottom of the ocean, or high pressure environments, suggesting that life may exist in similar extreme environments elsewhere in the universe. We don't have to think of it just in terms of the salubrious environs of what we see on Earth. Now, these discoveries imply that life might not be limited to Earth-like conditions, expanding the potential habitats for extraterrestrial life. Fourth, the detection of organic molecules such as amino acids in various astronomical bodies and within meteorites suggests that the building blocks of life are widespread throughout the observable universe. These molecules have been found in regions as diverse as interstellar clouds and comets. The presence of organic carbon molecules hugely strengthens the statistical case for the existence of life beyond Earth, because these, viewer, are the building blocks of life. And if they exist everywhere in the known universe, then that increases the possibility of life. Finally, something called panspermia. Let me explain what that is. Panspermia is the hypothesis that life could have originated on one planet and spread to others, either through natural processes or via technological means. Now, if panspermia is a valid mechanism, then the chances of life existing elsewhere in the universe increases exponentially. Microbes, bacteria could survive the journey through space within asteroids, comets, and other interstellar vehicles, increasing the probability of life's dissemination throughout this beautiful cosmos. Now, this picture I've hopefully painted here is that there are enormously compelling reasons to believe that alien life exists, whether or not all those allegations of a UFO in the US are true or not. But then, as the Fermi paradox so frustratingly articulates, why haven't we come across any substantial direct evidence of it? So the next time you hear about UFO sightings, remember that from time immemorial, we as humans have sat on the cusp of that most fundamental question of all. But honestly, which is more terrifying, that we are not alone or that we are?
One thing which no part of the business is unscathed by, including your business, is the rapid progress that digital is making. But at the same time, in a country of 1.4 billion people, television is not going to go away. It's only going to become stronger. Even medium like print is still running very strong. So I think what we have to grapple with is that this is a country where it's not one medium or the other. It's one medium and the other. And there are very different Indias. Now, if you're a brand, how do you reach them with one consistent message? That, I think, is going to be a big challenge in years to come, particularly as digital takes more and more center stage.
Is it even possible to have one consistent message across platforms and, like you correctly pointed out, across a vast, complex society, culture and country like India?
You probably can't have one consistent message, but you definitely need to have one consistent positioning for a brand, right? Because every brand, whether it's a media brand or a consumer goods or whatever, stands for something in the consumer's mind. You may express that in different ways in different media or in different parts of the country, but what it inherently stands for, in my mind, that you cannot change. And that's now becoming a big challenge for marketeers, because on the one hand, you're trying to target the youngsters who have milliseconds of attention in the digital medium, and at the same time you've got a large enough population which is not even English speaking, but maybe coming onto the internet very rapidly through mobile or otherwise, maybe television watching, etc. You have to, at the heart of it, the brand has to mean the same thing, but obviously you have to communicate it very, very differently.
Welcome, you're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. RBI extends a tightening pause, keeps repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. Rate cuts seem distant. Borrowers, however, can hope for EMIs to stay steady. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das says 50% of withdrawn 2,000 rupee notes back into the system slams speculation that the 500 or 1,000 rupee notes. Sam Altman chats GPT with Prime Minister Modi, discusses global regulation of AI, says amazing to watch India embrace AI. Markets slip as immediate rate cut hopes dip, snapping the 4-day winning streak. Akasa Air co-founder Aditya Ghosh says airfares should be affordable, says there is need for more aircraft to stabilize airfares. IMD declares the onset of southwest monsoon in India but expects rainfall to remain weak for at least a week. The Reserve Bank of India maintains status quo on the key repo rate at which RBI lends money to banks, keeping it at 6.5%. This has come as a slight breather for the home loan subscribers, as the repo rate pause indicates that their EMIs when it comes to home and vehicle loans will not increase. In fact, both lending and deposit rates are likely to remain unchanged. On inflation, the RBI has lowered its forecast marginally to 5.1% for FY24. On growth, however, the RBI has retained its projection at 6.5% for FY24. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das also spoke about how nearly 50% of the withdrawn 2,000 rupee notes are already back in the system. He also clarified on the concerns on what will happen to the existing 500 rupee notes as well.
The Monetary Policy Committee met on 6th, 7th and 8th June, and based on an assessment of the macroeconomic situation and outlook, the MPC decided unanimously to keep the policy repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. CPI headline inflation is projected at 5.1% for 23-24, with Q1 at 4.6%, Q2 at 5.2%, Q3 at 5.4%, and Q4 at 5.2%. The risks are evenly balanced. The GDP, the real GDP growth for 2023-24, that is for the current year, is projected at 6.5%, with Q1 at 8%, Q2 at 6.5%, Q3 at 6%, and Q4 at 5.7%, with risks evenly balanced.
Totally so far, about 1,80,000 crores, 1.8 lakh crores of 2,000 rupee notes have come back. About 85% of the 2,000 rupee notes are coming back as deposits into bank accounts.
Business Today's managing editor Siddharth Zarabi spoke with top economists D.K. Joshi from CRISIL and Ranjani Saha of Care Ratings to decode the policy fine print and to find out what the extended pause on rates means for home loan borrowers. How soon can one expect a rate cycle reversal?
One question which I think is top of mind now, what really has the RBI done today apart from maintaining a status quo? Basically, have they dampened and pushed away any rate cut hopes?
Well, I think I would say so. The main objective, I think, of this policy was to take the pause forward, and I think that's what they did. I think one more addition, nuance that they added to this policy was that they made it very explicit that they are chasing inflation target of 4%, and they want to align the inflation to the target that I think they have been saying they want over the medium run. So that I think makes it very clear that they are not in a hurry to cut rates. There is a risk of them slowing down faster. There is a risk of financial accidents, geopolitical issues. I think all those things they highlighted. And on top of that, I think despite a normal monsoon forecast from the Met, the risk of El Nino has not gone away. And even if the monsoons remain normal, I think their distribution over time, over geographies, cannot be predicted at this juncture. So that risk always remains. So they've highlighted that is a risk to, from an inflation perspective, I think, which they need to monitor very closely. I think apart from that, I think the messages were pretty straightforward on growth and inflation. Growth forecast, they did not change because the growth momentum that we are seeing in the current quarter is quite strong, and I think they have a forecast of 8%, so it is on track. So they kept the growth forecast unchanged.
Rajni, what do you think gives the RBI confidence in the manner in which they have emphasized the 4% target and the point that D.K. Joshi made as far as inflation is concerned? The reason I'm asking you this question is the southwest monsoon has arrived in Kerala, but a week late. We saw sort of different weather patterns, at least in North India, during the height of summer in the month of May. Given all of that, plus the global overhang, what really could have gone into RBI's emphasis on the 4% inflation target?
If you look at the average, that inflation number that they've given for FY24, they've very marginally reduced it to 5.1% from 5.2% that they had given earlier. So, and they have highlighted a lot of looming inflationary concerns. Like you highlighted, one concern is weather-related disruptions. We cannot completely, while IMD has given a projection of normal monsoon, we cannot completely ignore the risk of El Nino. So that's something which RBI would be conscious of. Second, like RBI has highlighted, they are concerned about any other global supply constraints which could again push up global commodity prices. So, given these uncertainties, RBI has preferred to, while they have maintained status quo on rates, if you look at the stance, there was some expectation in the market that probably they would move the stance to neutral. But they have maintained removal of accommodation as the stance because RBI wants to give the message to the market that they're still very cautious on inflation front, and they would like the market participants also to remain very cautious on market front, on inflation front. And in fact, not just RBI, globally, if you see, the central banks are indicating that they are going to be very flexible and they are going to be very data dependent. So they are not giving very clear forward guidance.
This concerns a lot of our viewers, which is what happens to deposit rates. And it's not directly, I mean, in some ways, the question is not directly linked to the repo rate status quo, but to do with the 2000 rupee currency withdrawal and the impact on banking liquidity. What's your own sense about deposit growth and whether savers can now expect lower or flat savings rate for their deposits?
Because its policies stance is withdrawal of accommodation, they will not let the excess liquidity accumulate in the system, and they'll try to bring it down to near neutral levels. So I think all this, and I think Governor also had pointed out that it will work both ways. I think if liquidity becomes less, then they will infuse. So they would basically, I think, try to keep the liquidity in line with the requirements of the economy. But at least in the near term, I think that should create some downward pressure on short-term interest rates. But let's see how it plays out. Right now, the yield curve is completely flat. Whether you have a 1-year government bond or a 10-year government bond, the rate of return that you are getting on them is exactly the same, which essentially actually is pointing that maybe going ahead you will see rate cuts. I think that's what the yield curve is telling you about. So I think from a consumer's perspective, I would say that deposit rates have probably peaked and they would not go beyond this. And going ahead, I think they're likely to stay at these levels for some more time before I think they start softening.
Rajni, would you agree with that, the point made by DK Joshi that deposit rates have peaked?
May go up a little more as the pass-through has not completely happened. But more or less, I would agree that it has peaked. And given that we are not looking at, we are looking at the RBI maintaining status quo, it's likely to remain around these levels, the deposit rate.
Sensex snapping a 4-day winning streak after hints from the RBI policy outcome that the wait for rate cuts may be longer than expected. Benchmark Nifty saw a bout of profit booking at the touching distance of the all-time high and closed the day below 18,650. Sensex slipping close to 300 points, closing at 62,849. All sectors barring metals came under selling pressure. Top laggards today: Grasim, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Sun Pharma, Tata Consumer and Tech Mahindra. Meanwhile, NTPC, JSW Steel, Power Grid, ONGC and L&T saw some gains and pretty decent gains, particularly on those power stocks today. The IMD declaring the onset of southwest monsoon in India as it finally reaches Kerala, although a week later than it normally does. The IMD has said the progress is likely to be slow for at least 1 week due to the severe cyclone developing in the Arabian Sea, which may further delay its penetration over the Indian mainland. India is expected to get normal rainfall during the southwest monsoon season despite the evolving El Nino conditions. Collections under the Small Savings Scheme for senior citizens grew by 4 times in May as compared to last year, as per Finance Ministry officials. The fresh mop-up under this scheme was more than 15,000 crores in addition to the existing one. This is also because of revision of maximum limit and rate of interest. My colleague Karishma Sudani brings us the story. Karishma, tell us, what has been the net collection? How will this impact the government's budget estimate?
Well, yes, the Ministry of Finance is happy about the collection under the senior citizen savings schemes for the month of May. In fact, my top sources tell me that the net collection has been close to rupees 24,000 crore, which is 4 times the collection in terms of year-on-year basis, and about 85% up on a month-on-month basis. It was rupees 6,000 lakh crore that was collected in the month of May 2022, and close to about 13,000 that has been collected in the month of April. That is 13,000 lakh crore. So the total collection has been at 24 lakh crore, and the mop-up in terms of new people joining it has also been good, and clearly this is also because of government's revision of the rate of interest from April 1st, 2023, and also increasing, in fact, they put a double the limit in terms of investment into this scheme.
Thanks, Karishma. Let's take a very quick break. When we return, the man behind the AI revolution, Sam Altman, shares how to AI-proof your jobs.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 42 and minimum 28 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 34 and minimum 28 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 41 and minimum 30 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 32 and minimum 24 degrees. Chennai, maximum 37 and minimum 30 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 40 and minimum 25 degrees.
Why does this happen?